What is the creepiest unexplained thing you have ever come across on the internet? When I was a kid, I had some cereal that had a website to visit to win some prize or something. I don't remember the specifics. Anyway, when I entered that site into my computer, it didn't take me to some kid-friendly site or anything. It took me to a blank white page with just the text, "We have been watching you." Once when I was a teenager, I stumbled across a website that looked like one of those live cam sites for adults, but then I noticed most of the people weren't engaging with the audience, and they were all kinds of people. Old people, kids, people of all different ages, ethnicities, and whatnot. I clicked on a random live stream of some oblivious teenager doing her homework, and the people in the comments were saying stuff that made me realize she didn't know she was being live streamed, nor did anyone else on the site. I came across one that was like a nanny cam or laptop camera on a desk, and it showed a family going about their evening routine. It made me sick that they didn't know their private life was open to the entire internet, and I stopped surfing cams. It seemed to be some weird website of hacked webcams or security cameras, that the people had no idea about it. I always thought my mum was paranoid by putting band-aids over our computer's camera when I was younger, but honestly, I just don't feel safe without it anymore. It was creepy, and I've never kept my webcam pointed at me when not in use since. This is a bit weird. When I was in the 6th grade, one of my best friends, Billy, at the time claimed he found some psychic website, which obviously none of us believed. That weekend, Billy and I, as well as 2 other friends, had a sleepover at one of their houses. We played board games for a while, and when that kid's parents fell asleep, Billy borrowed the kid's laptop to show the website to us. It seemed like most websites from the early 2010s, with no real design with a plain background, but a search box in the middle asking you to enter a question. Billy said that it would only work if he typed out the question, and to prove it he asked, "What's my name?" to which the website replied, "Billy." Then he asked who was sitting next to me, and the computer replied with my name, which was correct. My name isn't common, that spooked me a bit. I decided to try it myself, so I typed out, "What's my name?" to which the computer did not respond. However, Billy took the laptop back and asked who will I marry, to which the computer replied with the exact name of my crush at the time. This was really weird, since I had never told anyone about her, and it was only later that I would learn she liked me back. I figured Billy must have been faking it somehow, so I decided to trick the system. I told one of the guys to go out of the room and take off his jacket. We then asked the computer what colored jacket he was wearing, to which the computer replied, "None." To this day, I still have no idea what happened back there. The creepiest thing I have ever heard on the internet was something called a ghost song. I can't remember the name of the man who made it, but I remember the story. He was driven so insane by his own creation, he disappeared less than a week after making it. The song is made up of strange and unusual sounds that were supposed to bring on the presence of paranormal entities, not as an actual song. But the fluctuation and differentiation of the noise pitches made it sound like a song. Imagine what it would sound like to have something not of this world singing to you. Something that sounds almost human, but you know it isn't. It can't be. There's just something unnatural about it. It just isn't correct. Hearing it makes you wish it didn't exist, or you didn't exist, and that it would just stop making the noise already. Then they stop singing to you and you think it's over. But no. Then the other noises start. The rattling of a chain, the breaking of some object, scratching, tearing. And then they start singing to you again. In the same horrifying, blood-freezing voices that just should not be existing. That's what the song sounds like. After hearing it, I was seriously completely on edge and paranoid for a straight week. I wouldn't go anywhere alone, and when I was forced to be alone, I felt mad. It gave me terrible nightmares too, whenever I managed to actually get to sleep. I hated it, and the worst part is that it's catchy. It'll play in my head and get stuck every once in a while. A few years ago, at the beginning of the pandemic, when I had more free time than usual, my friends and I used to game online together regularly, and the four of us would play most evenings for a few hours together. It was fun and social and whatnot. One day in the middle of playing, two of my friends left our group chat to grab dinner. The little Xbox indicator showed that they left the group, and it was just my one friend and me. After a bit of chatting, we focus on the game, and there's a bit of silence. And then we hear the loud staticky laughter of a girl through the headset. It was really loud and unexpected. My friend's wife also games with us sometimes, and commonly hangs out in the room with my friend while he plays with us. So I say, "Haha, what was that, Lisa?" Thinking something funny happened on their end. My question is met with silence for like 5 seconds, until my friend responds completely confused. Apparently today she was still at work, and the only two people in the chat were he and I. He tells me he thought it came through my end, that he thought I had someone over, or it was a neighbor. Nope. Just us two. We both freaked out a little while continuing to play, and then when our friends returned about 20 minutes later, had a full-hour discussion about it. I'm sure there are loads of technical explanations, but it was pretty disturbing to experience unsuspecting. Can't find the post, but there was a Reddit user who was in high school and got knocked out in the parking lot. While he was unconscious, he continued his life in his head. He went on to meet the love of his life, raise a family and enjoy success. He details his life while he was knocked out, with a sense of longing and sadness. Eventually, he noticed a lamp that was two-dimensional. It bothered him for weeks, until his wife and family left him. He realized that the reality he was experiencing was not real, and began to go insane. Not long after, he woke up to the school officer carrying him to his car to take him to the hospital. He went to therapy for a long time. He dreams about his kids from the other life, and wakes up crying and missing them constantly. It's fascinating, creepy, and extremely depressing. Eliza Lamb's elevator video. Eliza Lamb was a college student staying in a hotel in Skid Row. She was off her meds, and the friends she was staying with reported she was acting unusual, so the hotel booked her in a room by herself. The last known video of her is taken from an elevator's CCTV camera. The reason it's a little creepy is that she's acting like she's being followed, pins herself to the elevator wall to hide, and keeps peeking at the outside of the elevator and making hand gestures. She went missing shortly after, and after a couple of weeks, hotel guests reported that the water seemed strange. They check on the roof, and in the water tank is Elisa's decomposing body. Eliza was having a mental breakdown, and was probably experiencing heavy paranoia and fear, and thought someone was following her, so she hid in the water tank on the roof, only to realize she couldn't get out. The coroner's report reports her death as an accident, but a lot of conspiracy theorists think it was something more supernatural, given her bizarre behavior in the elevator. The creepiest part about this one was the other hotel guests complaining about the watercolor, smell, and taste. My granddad used to be in a ghost hunting group back in the 70s. They never saw anything interesting. There are a lot of funny stories that came out of it, however. There's one legit thing that happened to them. They used to have a system where they'd pair up, so that if anyone saw anything, they had another witness to verify it. On this occasion, they were investigating a haunted shop. There were 4 areas: the ground floor, 2 large rooms on the first floor, and 1 big room on the second floor. Because there were only 6 of them, that meant they could only cover 3 areas. So 2 were stationed on the shop floor, 2 in one of the first floor rooms, and 2 on the top floor. In the other first floor room that they couldn't cover, they set up their tape recorder. They also all had thermometers. At approximately 1:30 in the morning, everyone experienced a drop in temperature. It lasted for 5 to 10 minutes. Nothing else happened, and the next day, when they checked their recording from the empty room, they went to the time stamp of the temperature drop first. At the very end of that time period, there is audibly a woman's voice saying, "Who's there?" They sent it for analysis, and apparently, it was extremely rare for that model of the recorder to pick up stray transmissions and so on. I've heard that recording, and it is scary. Back when computer viruses were a lot more creative, our computer had gotten one. At the time, the family computer was in my room, and to think of it, I have no idea why it was in there. My mom didn't like it in the living room because she thought it looked ugly. Anyway, Mom at the time was mostly deaf, so she had to turn things up really loud to hear. She was using the computer before I went to bed. Having forgotten to turn down the volume and turn off the PC, I went to bed. I didn't mind the computer being on at the time. I liked seeing the screensaver go along. Our antivirus at the time went off, and whenever it went off it set off a loud klaxon-like sound, beeping loudly. Then it would normally play, "A virus has been found on your computer," over audio. Instead, the voice sounded broken and glitchy. All I heard was, "A virus has been found on your computer." The screen then went black for a second, and then I started hearing this ungodly screechy, glitchy noise. All that popped up were in huge red, blinking letters while making this sound. I don't know why, but it terrifies me to this day. Ever since then, I am unable to sleep in a room with a computer that isn't covered and unplugged. This isn't the internet, but more on a call. I was on a call with my girlfriend, who was in Germany at that time, when suddenly, she seemed to be repeating what she was saying from a while back. I got confused, and was trying to ask her why she was repeating herself, before I realized that her voice was being looped back. I didn't realize the loop point, or how far back it was, but she was clearly saying the same lines as she did before. When I hung up and called her back, she asked me why I hung up on her. Then during the second call, it happened again after 3 minutes. I've never been able to explain why this happened, and has never occurred again before or since. Definitely gave me the creeps, and more than a few thoughts, that I was living in a simulation. I never really liked Facebook. Facebook was much cleaner and more cultish than MySpace, but I joined back in 2006. When they switched to newsfeed and likes, I really felt what I was seeing was totally curated to my behavior. So I started messing with the algorithm to see if I could break it. I'd spend a week only talking about measuring cups and ornithology, and then switch to posts on drag racing and comparisons of pencils. I'd like random people's posts. Then I had the idea of randomly generating names and searching for them on Facebook and sending a request to them. I came across this woman who accepted my request. I commented on one of her photos and received a bizarre reply, like it didn't make sense grammatically or logically. I then looked at her friend list, and she only had 7 friends. I start checking out her friends, and they're all talking to each other, but in the same kind of strange English. Stuff like, "Why is a mother when she jumps?" Because the first Ford told her to. Back and forth these conversations were going on. 4 months. And this woman noticed me from my comment. And she comments about my posts and about people in my pictures. referencing the geographic location of a picture that wasn't provided in the post. Nope. I unfriended her immediately. Spent 7 hours going back through 11 years and deleting every like, post, picture, and comment. Then deleted my Facebook account, my Facebook Messenger, my Instagram account, and anything else I could associate with Facebook. I haven't even gone back since then. We played with this girl in Guild Wars for a long time. We would play pretty much every night with 10 or so people usually. She had a crappy mic and it never really bothered us. She had an online girlfriend. She was trying to get to visit her in a sketchy area of Mexico. One night, this online girlfriend messages the leaders of the guild, and she was kicked out. I was an officer of the guild, and it turns out this person had a voice changer on her PC. I guess the girlfriend had to help the other girl out with remote access or something to her PC, and she saw this voice changer. Another guildie went into a random room with another group of people, and he heard this person speaking Spanish, with a perfect mic with a male voice a little while later. So the guy with a voice changer attempts to lure a girl into rural Mexico by using a voice changer. Pretty creepy that this dude hung out with us 4 hours at a time, pretending to be a girl too. I didn't come across it, but once when I was around 15, someone hacked into my computer. This is 100% true, and I tell it as a cautionary tale often. I had an FTP file server at the time, because I was in a long-distance relationship, and we would send stuff to each other via the file server. One day, I noticed someone had downloaded all of my photos from the server. I called my boyfriend and asked him why he was downloading stuff he already had. He swore it wasn't him. I ignored it, until several days later, a screen opened on my desktop. That was a window for my webcam and was on with me on the screen, and a chat window opened. The person told me that if I didn't follow their words, they would use my mom and dad's credit cards to buy all sorts of things. Luckily, my parents were super cautious about using their credit cards on the internet, so I knew he didn't have their card numbers. He had used an FTP server to upload this video program, and who knows how long they had been watching me. I freaked out. I unplugged my computer and unplugged it from the internet and didn't turn it back on until I was prepared with fancy firewalls and security for their FTP server. I tried calling to police and my internet provider, but no one could help me. And that's how I learned hundreds of IP addresses and what they were. I watched my firewall like a hawk. I never heard from the hacker again, but it sure scared me. Not the creepiest, but definitely up there. There is a YouTuber that liked exploring abandoned mines, caves, and wells on his own, and would always record it with GoPro and other cameras. There is an abandoned mine he went down, and when he was really deep, he started hearing frantic whispering that sounded like multiple people behind him. If you've ever watched a good supernatural horror movie, you'd know exactly the type of whispering, and it was very clearly heard in the video. However, when he shined his helmet light behind him, the whispering stopped and he noped out of there. He never screamed or panicked, just made his way out calmly, but you could tell he was scared as all get out. A friend of mine played the game Rune 4 PC a long time ago, and managed to get into of the biggest clans at the time, Dragonmite. One night, I was over there, and they had a scheduled voice chat meeting about the status of the planned clan wars. In the middle of the meeting, a person joined with the name Yoda. The thing that made this creepy was the room was password protected, and everyone who was supposed to be in the meeting was there. After about 15 seconds of nobody saying anything, because they were a little confused, my friend was about to ask who it was, and right as he opened his mouth, the person yelled in the weirdest, squeakiest, downright creepy voice I've ever heard. It was me. This immediately scared me and my friend, and we left the chat room. A few hours later, he got an email from his clan leader, saying that he was sorry, but he had to find a new clan, because whoever the guy was, had crashed all of their servers and websites, and made sure nobody could restore them. I'll never forget that voice.